What's up? Let's get right into it. One of the most difficult things in the sport of bass fishing is finding fish on a lake you've never been to before. This lake here, there's not many lakes in the area that I live that I haven't been to. I've been to this lake many times. I haven't been here in a couple months. The water it was a different time of the year when I was here last. The water was lower, we didn't have as much grass, and it was a whole different fishing season than right now. So it might as well be just a brand new lake that I haven't been to. I'm out here with my buddy Jason today, and we're gonna show you guys what it's like when you basically are going to a lake for the first time, how to find some fish here. I don't even know what we're gonna be throwing today. I have no idea what pattern these fish are on. I just looked down at my hummingbird down here and marked us. We're sitting off a grass line. I marked a huge school of fish suspended out here in 10 feet of water off the grass line. I don't know what we're gonna catch them on. I've got about 10 rods rigged up here with all different stuff, and I'll probably be re-rigging them with other stuff. But see if we can clarify for some people one of the most confusing things in bass fishing, which is how to find fish on a new lake. So stay tuned and we'll see how it goes.
Got him?
There's one.
Oh, that's
So it's been a little bit of a struggle finding fish on this lake. The last time I was here, and I might still not have one, but the last time I was here, and you look out here, it's a bunch of really good looking Kissimmee grass, and it was all open water back in here. And 2-3 months ago when I was here last, now it's solid matted up hydrilla. And we've been going down this grass line for what, about 45 minutes?
yeah.
And there's fish blowing up in this grass. And we're trying to use search baits, swim jigs. I'd like to be throwing a rattle trap or something like that, but these fish are holding too tight to this grass. So I went to the Fluke, my good old standby. Looking at my electronics, that's real important too when you're finding fish on a new lake. I'll talk more about that later. But this is literally, I mean, we've been out here for almost 2 hours. This is the first fish we put in the boat. It's a decent one, but we've seen some good fish blow up on this grass line. I've thrown a couple topwater walking baits, a new kind of hybrid frog looking bait from 13. I did get one little kind of bite on that. I've seen a bunch of fish blowing up on little bait fish and they wouldn't even touch a fluke, and that's the first one, but I had to let it sink down. Throwing a Texas rig worm, so they're being challenging. So when you're on a lake that you don't know anything about, again, I do know a lot about this lake, but I don't know anything about it right now, obviously, because this is our first fish. And it's a solid 2.5 pounder, 2 3/4. But you have to use a lure or lures that are good for searching out fish, something that you can cover a lot of water with. A fluke, kind of in between, you can fish them fast. I caught that one just letting it sink down, kind of dead sticking it, and we caught our first one. But electronics, nowadays you can go to YouTube videos, like if you're watching this, to find information about certain lakes. This isn't a video about a certain lake, but there are a lot of those videos out there. Like if you were traveling to Alabama, well, if you're traveling to upstate New York, I had a tournament there last year, Lake Champlain. The first thing I did was I went to YouTube and looked at every YouTube video I could on catching smallmouth bass at that certain time of year. So that's one way you can do research. Looked into lures. I looked at my maps. I still carry paper maps or printed maps, and all your GPS units with the map chips in them, whether it be Lake Master or Navionics. That's a good way to search out lakes. But eventually you have to actually put the boat on the water and no longer look at stuff and read and watch video, and you have to see what the fish want to do, and that's what we're doing right now. My electronics right now aren't playing a real big part in what we're doing because it's 5 feet deep and we're fishing a grass line. I could side image this. I know there's not a whole lot out here, and the fish are showing us where they're at. We just have to figure out how to catch them. I still don't think a fluke is the best thing to throw at them because I've thrown at, what, about a half dozen fish that have blown up, and they don't care anything about it. He's thrown some swim baits. Like I said, the Texas rig worm, I threw an underspin, a couple topwater walking baits, and we've caught one. But we're gonna go back down this grass line till we figure them out, because the fish have been pretty good sized fish. We saw one back there that threw a bunch of water up. But here we are 2 hours later, still trying to find fish on this new lake. Oh, there you go. See, they're all chunks. What was that on, swim bait?
Yep.
Look at that. That's not a bad fish.
He's been caught before.
He could be fatter. What'd you catch on? Just a swim bait? Were you just reeling it, or?
Yeah. Just reeling it in. No, wait. It looks like about 2.5.
Yeah, he could be in that like almost 4-pound range if he had any belly to him.
Look at that gap in his mouth right here.
Oh yeah.
He's caught before.
So that was our second fish. Still on the same grass line, but it's like 45 minutes later. His first fish, our second fish. We're kind of trying to treat today like we're in a tournament, sort of. Like he's the co-angler. That's why he's weighing his fish. Like he's the co-angler and I'm the boater, or the pro. And we're learning a lake that we've never been on, like a pre-fishing day or a practice day. And I feel like there's a ton of fish down this grass line, and we're not doing a very good job of figuring them out. I also think it's a combination of the fish just aren't biting that well. I've slowed down and thrown a big Texas rig worm. We have it's partly cloudy, 81-degree water. The fish should be biting a lot better. It's that weird time of year though, right at the beginning of October, and they're not super aggressive. I'm throwing a really slow moving topwater plug right now because we've seen probably a dozen or more fish, all good sized fish, not giants, but good sized chunks, come up and blow bait fish out of the water. But they're doing it one time, they're not chasing anything around, and we've caught them on now 2 different baits. So we haven't really figured anything out, but they've been decent fish. This lake's known though for producing good sized fish. It's not a lake you're gonna come catch a bunch of little tiny ones. They're always usually decent fish. We still haven't figured anything out. So keep plugging along here.
Yeah.
Got him?
I let it sink all the way to the bottom.
That's one bait.
And let it drop, and I just dropped it bouncing off the bottom. That one did. There's still not a pattern. There's only 2 fish.
So we were just sitting here talking about how bad the fishing is today for no reason at all. That was our 3rd fish in the boat. Unfortunately, it was only like 10 inches long on a swim bait. As you can see, because the camera's going back and forth like this, we're in about probably better than a 15-mile-an-hour wind, and we're on a wide open windy bank here. We're using search baits. I'm throwing a lipless crankbait and on an outside grass line. Can't really get up in there because it's chock full of hydrilla. He's throwing a swim bait and we're just blowing down this bait. We're searching for bass using moving search baits. And one of the problems when you're on a new lake that you don't know a lot about, or if you're on a lake that you haven't been to in a while, might as well be a new lake like we're doing today, is what do you do when you're searching for fish and they won't eat search baits? That's the problem we're kind of running into now. You have to, what's going on? Are we not using the right baits is the biggest question, or are the fish simply not biting? Because sometimes they don't bite. The old adage that if you're around the fish and you're using the right lure that you're going to catch them is not true. Sometimes fish don't eat, and that might be because of the time of the year and what's kind of been going on in the general area around here. They haven't been biting that great this week on any of the lakes around here. So we don't know if that's what's happening, because with a 3-fish sample, you haven't learned anything yet. We do know that all three fish we've caught have been on outside grass lines. We have gone up inside there, but this lake that we're on here of this chain of lakes, the particular lake we're on right now doesn't have a lot of stuff out. It's a sand bottom out here. I don't know enough. I'm sure there's some shell beds out here. I don't know where they're at. I don't fish out here enough to have found them yet. The lake, one of the lakes connected to this, has a bunch of offshore hydrilla, and the water's a lot clearer. So if we don't put anything together in here in this more stained water soon, we're going to venture in there and see if we can find some better fish or find more fish with search baits. But we're just still plugging along. We've been out here almost 4 hours. We've been out here about 3.5 hours. There you go. You're kind of burning that on the surface, weren't you?
That one was. The Other ones were on the bottom. I was like, I'm gonna try something a little bit different.
So we're on fish number 4 and we still haven't learned anything. Oh, he's bigger than I thought he was. Look at that. That's our biggest fish yet, and it ate it up on the surface.
Yeah.
So, fish number 4, a good 3-pounder, healthy 3-pounder. He's caught now 3 on his little swim bait. And that one hit it while he was railing it over the surface. It just kind of rode up. Got 4 fish total on 2 different grass lines. And for a lot of people that would be, they would be satisfied. But if we were practicing for a tournament, you need something way better than this. And we still haven't really learned anything because we're beating, oh, there's one. And I got one on a lipless. So, windy banks apparently are maybe a deal. So now we've caught 5 fish. And, stop it. We've caught 5 fish. But what we are kind of doing is we've been going down this windy bank and now we're back in a sort of, I guess you call it a windy cove. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Chunks, 2.5 pounder. How much is that one?
310.
310. So we're catching chunks. And I guess we're finding a pattern. It's kind of what you would think if you saw this lake. Last time I was here, there was not very much hydrilla and you could catch fish all the way to the bank, actual bank. The hydrilla is so thick, it's pushed a lot of these fish out. Water's cooler, fish are on the outside grass lines. So that's what we've learned. And like I said, if I didn't know anything about this lake, I probably would have come out here and for at least an hour studied my maps, which I probably won't get into that much in this video. But if you're on a lake you've never been to, make sure you have good fish finding units. Hummingbirds, that's what I use. Side imaging, always come down imaging, all that stuff comes into play. I'm not going to spend time doing that because I know what the bottom looks like here. But we're figuring some stuff out. Except for that one fish, they've all been chunks. Right, online. Got them?
Yeah, there it is.
Let me see that bait real quick. So that was kind of fish number 6. He's catching them all on little swim bait. I've had one on a fluke, one on a lipless, and you've had 4 now on this little swim bait. We got some storms moving in and it's getting windier. It might be a little front coming through, but we fished 3 banks now. Nothing on the first place and a couple on that one spot and then 4 here. So if this was a little tournament that we had that we were preparing for, we haven't figured out a lot, but we found 2 lengthy grass lines that I would probably end up either trying to recreate, expand on, or whatever to catch a 20-pound bag. But our best 5 today, because we've had some chunks, are probably up close to that high 13s into the 14-pound range with our best 5.
Yeah.
Because we don't have 5 over 3. We have a couple over 3 and the rest of them are under it. But it's getting windy. Oh! I missed that one. That was a weird bite. That was like a flutter.